Welcome to the Happy Bones, Happy Life podcast. I'm Margie Bissinger, a physical therapist and integrative health coach, and I am your host and guide on our journey to discover the keys to stronger bones, more happiness, and the secrets to live your best life ever. From nutrition to stress, from exercise to happiness, you will gain revolutionary insights from our leading experts. It is time for you to discover the health and happiness you deserve. Hey, Margie here. Would you like to know what you can do to stay as strong and healthy as possible during these uncertain times? Well, if your answer is yes, then you are in the right place because we have a very special guest today, Andrea Nakayama. And Andrea is not only my friend, but she's also my mentor. And she's really become a big deal in the world of functional medicine as a nutritionist who can help chronically ill people get better when no one else can. Her clinical skills have won her the attention of many world-renowned doctors who consult with her on their own difficult cases. More than that, Andrea trains 1,000 practitioners each year to have the success that she's having. And she's trained an army of change makers in the field of healthcare. And I am one of them. The triumph, though, came out of Andrea's own tragedy when her young husband was diagnosed with a fatal brain tumor while she was pregnant with their only child, and her subsequent struggles with her own health, which ultimately led to Hashimoto's diagnosis. But Andrea is filled with amazing information, and we talk about that in this interview. There's many concrete, easy steps that you can take to really have a big impact and keep yourself as healthy as you possibly can. So I am so excited for this interview, and stay tuned. Welcome, Andrea. I can't even tell you how excited I am to have you here. You played such an important role in my life, and for everyone listening, I just want to tell you a little background about my relationship with Andrea. Because as a lot of you know, I'm a physical therapist, and then I went back to school to become a health coach. But at the end of that, I still felt, and I was working with osteoporosis, there were so many things I wanted to know and delve in deep and really get to the root cause of why people were losing bone, what was the problem with their digestion. And I didn't feel I had the answers. And then I met you, Andrea, and took one of your short courses the digestive intensive, which completely changed the way I started practicing. And then I took the year program, and now I keep staying in as an alumni because there's just continued so much to learn. But what I think is so important and why I wanted you so much on this podcast is that not only do you know a tremendous amount and you dig deep and you look for answers, but then you have this incredible skill of being able to explain it so that people understand. And that's really my goal with the podcast, is that people can take action and understand and help themselves. So that's why you're the perfect person. And to be totally honest to everyone listening, we were going to discuss digestion and your bones, but now with the coronavirus and what's going on in the world today, I want you to help everyone. And really the theme of today is what can we do? Because the good news is there's a lot. Instead of sitting in fear, which we know how upsetting things are, there's things we can take action. And you are a take action person. And thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here, Margie, and so excited to really give people the things that they can do to support themselves during this time. It's a hard time. There's a lot of fear and there's a lot of concern and there's little control, and there are things that we can do to support ourselves through this time of big change.
Great. And so that's what we're going to do. What can we do? But you know what I like that you use to explain so many concepts, and I think it fits in here too, with 3 roots and many branches. So if you can explain that basic concept, and then we can apply it to the coronavirus as well as other conditions. But before we start, I just want to tell everyone the date today, because this will be put out after. So in case information changes, you understand where we're coming from today. So today is March 20th, and this interview is going to come out on March 31st. So just so you know where we're coming from today with all the information, because everything's changing day after day. But I think the things we talk about today are sort of staples that can help everyone regardless of where we are.
Absolutely. And I'm going to give us a little context for the three roots, many branches before we go there, just because I think it'll be helpful.
Great.
I love what I call a mental model. And a mental model means that we have a framework to think into complexities. And we're in a complex situation. The coronavirus is complex, what's happening is complex. And if we only think in the X for Y, do this for that, we lose the nuances of an entire situation. So in my training and in what you were talking about, Margie, what you're learning is a lot of information, but it's how to use that information in what I call a mental model. So the three roots, many branches is one of my mental models. And I'm going to share another mental model with you that puts us into our place of empowerment with the coronavirus, no matter where we are, if it's 3 weeks from now or 3 weeks ago, it really does give us back that empowerment. Three roots, many branches is one of my mental models, and it's there to help us as patients or as practitioners, depending on how we're looking at it, but we're all patients, to have a way into any situation. And sometimes we need more than one way in to see sort of three-dimensionally. So three roots, many branches means that behind any situation, there are usually roots. Coronavirus, osteoporosis, whatever sign, symptom, or diagnosis you can think of, constipation, diarrhea, Hashimoto's, whatever disease state it is or symptom it is, that is a branch. And if we think about a tree, if the leaves are sick or the branch is sick, we don't just want to address that branch or those leaves. We want to look deeper. So we go to the trunk of the tree, we ultimately go to the roots. And what we do in functional nutrition is we not just look at the roots, but we look at the soil. And that's where these three roots come from. So with any chronic condition, no matter what it is, and even when we think about an acute condition like the coronavirus, we can think of these three roots: the genes, digestion, which we were going to talk about, and inflammation. So those are the three roots that we need to consider. But what we have to do then is figure out how we address those three roots, because we could say the genes, what am I supposed to do for my genes? That's really hard. And again, to tie this back to the coronavirus or COVID-19, which is the disease state, we know already, we don't know which, but there is some suspicion that there are people with certain genetic variants that may be more susceptible to the severe cases of the disease. But that's completely unknown. And I don't suspect that we'll know that by March 31st either. So we don't know what to do with the genes, but what we do know is what I'm going to share with you is your circle of influence. And that means we look at the food, our movement, our environment, and our mindset as it relates to everything we're doing in our life. And those things alone, even if we don't know anything about our genes, helps to shift our genes to do what we want them to do for us. So that circle of influence around the gene root, and remember there's three roots: genes, digestion, and inflammation. And we're going to focus on those other two. But for genes, just remember there's this thing called the epigenome. That means every choice we make every day matters. So your food matters, your movement matters, your environment matters, and your mindset matters. And that matters too for osteoporosis, right, Margie?
Absolutely. I think this is so important because so often people think, oh, my whole family has diabetes. It's inevitable. They don't realize that what you're saying, the food and their lifestyle can turn the genes on or turn them off. Or
Yes.
they don't have to, it's not that you're destined for that. And that's, I think, a concept that not everybody realizes, but how empowering and how exciting. And yes, with the bones, this absolutely is the same thing. Just because your mother had this, maybe you're more predisposed, but you have a choice. There's things you can do. And that's just like with this virus as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said that beautifully. Just because we're predisposed to it doesn't mean it's going to happen. And that impacts our mindset too in that arena, right? So if we shift our mindset from, this is just what's going to happen to me, to, wait a minute, I actually have some say in this, that shifts the internal environment and even our genetic expression as well. So we can put that root aside and head over to digestion, which again, if we're to tie it back to osteoporosis, has a huge impact on the health of our bones, the digestion and utilization of calcium. But if we think about digestion, there's our circle of influence. And again, I'm going to come back to that concept as a mental model. But the things we can influence with our digestion are the mechanical, the chemical, the structural, and the microbial. And all of these things that I'm talking about, and we're going to focus more on inflammation in relation to coronavirus, but all of these things are things that are going to help us with even addressing how we thwart the impact of the coronavirus. So mechanical, Margie, we need to talk about chewing, right? People
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
chew,
that's the
right?
fun. The best thing about this is that some of the tips that you're going to talk about that are unbelievably important for your bones and overall health, really are so simple, but yet so powerful. So yes, chewing, go.
Yes. Yeah, we tend to run away, as I think we'll talk about with coronavirus. We run away with these worries and think we can't do anything, but we can chew. We can cook our food, especially now that we're all stuck at home, right? We can cook our food and smell the smells. That gets some of our chemical secretions going. We need the secretions that help us to break down and utilize our food. They cause less distress on the digestive organs, but they also allow us to get the nutrients like calcium and magnesium and vitamin D that we need for healthy bones, and also those nutrients that we need for healthy immune systems. So even smelling our food and getting the secretions moving in our bodies. And this is really important right now in a time of added stress, because the body isn't in rest and digest, it's in fight or flight. So we have to really remember to take the time where we can to allow our bodies to do what they're supposed to do. So chewing helps, smelling our food helps. We then need to think structurally. Structure is very important right now with our immune support, because we have to think about the structure of our intestines and our mucosa. So our mucosa is what's most susceptible to attacks by the virus. The cells in the mucosa in our mouth, our eyes, our nose, as I'm sure you have all been hearing, but also in our digestive tract, there's mucosa there. And those cells are the cells that are most susceptible to the coronavirus. So they're actually sidling up to the mucosal cells more than any other cells. And we can talk about what that cell looks like if that's helpful in just a bit. But the mucosa we can support with all our immune supportive nutrients, which we will talk about, but also with a little bit of aloe vera. So there's ways that we can drink aloe vera juice. It's probably still on the shelves at your store. Lily of the Desert is my favorite brand that you can get organic. You can always start low if it's something new to you. Start low and go slow with introduction. If you're worried about consuming it, it is for consumption. If we're talking about the brand I'm talking about, you can also gargle with it. That helps the mucosa in your mouth be less susceptible to the droplets that are coming into us. You can gargle. Gargling is also great for the gut and the brain, really helps with that connection in the body that we have through the biggest nerve called the vagus nerve. Or you can put an ounce of aloe vera juice into a smoothie. Some people really hate the taste. I could actually get just in a gulp. So whatever works for you, this is a way we are protecting the structure and the barriers that we should have in our digestive system. So really beautiful thing to do right now. And then microbial, can't say enough about what we can be doing right now to support our immune systems with eating probiotic rich foods, eating prebiotic rich foods, which we can talk about, and making sure that we're supporting our overall immunity, most of which lives in our digestive system. So lots we can be doing there to support ourselves in this time that aren't about running out and getting a million supplements, but are about what you do every single day.
This is so important because I've been getting all sorts of threads from people who are not health coaches or not in the health field. and they're like ordering all these sugary desserts because they're so upset, like, you know, and
Right.
they're proud of it. Oh, I just ordered these cupcakes, or I just ordered this great thing. And I'm thinking, oh no, you know, they don't realize that what they're putting in their mouth can really affect their immune system. So let's go back to what you said, because this is so important. First of all, I as well every day take the aloe vera juice, because I think that it's, you know, it seems to help my digestion, and I know all the benefits that it has for the immune system. So I do this on a regular basis always. But let's go back, let's go in detail, because because a lot of people don't even know what probiotic food is and don't even know what prebiotic food is. So why don't we just
Yes.
clarify that a little bit so people can actually have good takeaways, that they know that, okay, I can get this.
Yes, absolutely. So probiotics, I think a lot of us these days know about the microbiome. And what we want in the microbiome more than anything else is diversity. It's the diversity of the ecosystem in mostly in our colon, our large intestine, that is populated with these good microbes that help us to fight disease in every way. So really, we want to always support that diversity. I know you might hear from others, run out and get this probiotic and take it in this amount. And this is a very individualized recommendation. So if you've taken probiotics before and been like, those don't work for me, it really is where working with somebody individual like you, Margie, is so important, because we know how to taper to look at the right kind of dosing for the individual. What we can all do without having that support is make sure that we are eating cultured foods. I always love the statement that cultures through history didn't exist without eating cultured food. So if we think about survival of the fittest, it was the cultures that ate culture that survived. And those cultures came from, right? It's
That's
true,
good.
right?
I
It's
never
so
heard you
interesting
say
to
that
think about.
before, and I really like that. That's a great way to put it, Andrea.
Yeah, I didn't think about the word culture, period. If we think about agriculture and the foods going back to that in that gene expression or influence that we have, right now we really want to be eating a wide variety of color. We want our phytonutrients in our food. And agriculture also has culture in it. We are culturing our systems appropriately to be able to have resilience, which is what we want in this time of both infection and stress, right? So we need to cultivate right now resilience. So our microbial diversity is what helps us to do that as well. So one of the things we can be doing are eating those cultured foods, sauerkraut, kimchi, miso. So if you can't do soy, if you know soy doesn't work for you, there's lots of different misos these days, but it's a cultured miso. Yogurt also, if you can't eat dairy. In my house, my son who's home from college eats goat yogurt. I eat coconut yogurt. So many things available to us these days. If you are eating yogurt, just check the label, because right now we do not want to be eating cupcakes and sugars, because as we'll talk about with the immune system, that depresses the immune system. It doesn't mean we can't eat treats, but we have to just think consciously about that resiliency that we definitely want right now. So all those cultured foods, coconut kefirs, also really beautiful, more available these days. Lots of different ways to eat cultured food. The other things that support that microbiome are the foods that feed the microbiome. So we feed the microbiome with the foods that have some microbial diversity, like these cultured foods, but we also feed the microbiome with polyphenol-rich foods. Those are your blueberries, your green tea. I'm sitting here drinking my green tea. Those have a lot of the polyphenols that help to feed the microbiome. And then there's also what are called short-chain fatty acids, or if we're talking about food, resistant starch is something else that can feed the microbial diversity. We can get that from green plantains, also probably not flying off the shelf right now at your grocery store. So you can use a green plantain and eating them cold. So I actually make a kind of bread out of the green plantain. I cook it and then I put it in the refrigerator so it's not hot, because the makeup of the starch changes whether it's cold or hot. Potatoes also, you eat them hot, they're one kind of starch. You eat them cold, they're a resistant starch. So eating more of those cold potatoes, cold green plantains, cold rice even during these times when we're in a little bit, there's less available to us in the store. These help to feed our microbiome. So stewed apples, really also another beautiful way to feed the microbiome. So if you have an Instant Pot, can throw some apples in there, skin them right now so nobody else has touched them, get them in there with a little bit of cinnamon, I'm talking too fast, and then cook those up. You're gonna feed your microbial diversity. This helps every part of your body. It helps with your bones, it helps with your brain, it helps with your digestion, and it helps with your immune system.
Wow. Just one thing I want to say is because a lot of people don't realize, oh, yeah, I love sauerkraut on my hot dogs. It's the sauerkraut that's in the refrigerator section.
Thank you.
Because sometimes people think, oh, sauerkraut, great, I'll just pile it on. So it's only the regular sauerkraut that you just get that's not refrigerated. That's not going to have the cultures in it, but it's the one in the refrigerator section. And they did have it, I have to say, because there's a health food store near me that just recently closed. And so but Whole Foods had they
Yes,
had a few different
totally.
varieties, really good. And then they even have the pickles that
Yes.
have that are dill pickles that are delicious, that are also culture. So there's
Yeah,
lots of
thank you for saying that, Margie. I live in Portland, Oregon. I'm in a bit of a bubble, right? In terms of what's available to us. So it's such an important point. You want to look for the live cultures and the live foods. They're alive because they have these microbial populations that help to support our own microbiome. So such a good point, Margie.
But the other interesting thing is, now I don't do this, and I've told myself for the past 9 years probably, I have to make my own, because I took a class on how to make the sauerkraut. It isn't hard. It's not hard at all. It's so simple. And I just haven't dedicated the time to do it, but it's so inexpensive and so easy. And it's something that if we're stuck home, and again, right now, with this, I mean, there's so much less food on the shelves. You do the best
Yeah.
you can. I mean, that's the key.
Yes.
You certainly don't stress, oh no, I can't find the cultured sauerkraut. But but when you can, these are all like amazing things that just augment, your microbiome, like you're saying. So really,
Yes.
really,
Yeah.
really great points. So okay, so we've
Yeah.
gotten
And the
to
beauty of the food piece, Margie, is that if we are able to get to the store, the vegetables and fruit have been growing already. So they're likely to end up there. And the stores are still stocking. So we just need to figure out when to get there, at least as of today. The stores are still stocking. So we can get there in the morning, see what's there, really be able to pick and choose, and maybe use it as an opportunity to think differently about what we're eating.
The funny thing is now that I have in my house, I have my daughter's fiance, and one of my sons living home, and I've been cooking them. We've been eating, because I bought all the food. So we've been eating so healthy and sort of giving people a chance to experience, healthy eating, because you have time to cook,
Yes.
and you have time to eat, and you have time to be together, which is one of the, you know, positive things. I always believe in looking at, this is a very tough time, but if we can
Yes.
look at some wins and some good things that come out of it, people are spending time with, if I mean, unless they're in their house by themselves, but some families are more together. But anyway, yeah, so the food is so important. I don't think
Yeah.
people realize the food is medicine, and how important everything you put in your mouth really is. And why
Yeah.
don't you go on to what maybe not to eat then, because yes, we want to really
Yeah.
help ourselves, but
Yeah, that's it. That actually brings us to the third root. And I love what you're saying, Margie, about, the silver linings that we need to think about in all of this. And it's hard. It can be hard. I have my moments too where I'm super excited to dispense information and help all the people that can be helped, and think about how we work with the worried well, right? So that's an area that we can really address things, even the worried mildly sick. There's ways we can really contain this. And then I have moments that feel a little darker. So I think we need to recognize that that's going to happen for all of us. And it's made me reflect a lot on human resiliency. Just as a little bit of an aside, we humans live through things that we thought we could not live through. And I, of course, experienced this with my husband's illness and death. And for 2.5 years, I lived through, what does it look like to die from a brain tumor? When's it going to happen? Why will it happen? Can I predict when it will happen? And I quickly found that I needed to visit that place, but live in the moment and cherish the moments that we had. And if I didn't, I would have lost the grace that I received in that time. And so I'm just kind of touched right now by how resilient humans are. And he died, you know, quite some time ago now, but I had to live through what I thought I could never live through. And here I am, you know, almost 17 years later. So it's possible. And I just want to remind us that we are very resilient.
Can I
But
just say
you
something
asked
to
what,
that? Yeah,
yes,
that before you go
yeah,
into that, that was just so beautifully said. And I think it's so easy to go to that place of fear and go to the future and then go to the dark. But if you can stay in the moment, I think you touched upon something that's just so important. And I've seen in my practice for years that when you live in the moment and live right now, it makes all the difference in the world. And then to be, and gratitude, grateful for what is right now, and let the light in. And that's what you did with your husband, that you lived each moment and you brought the light into that moment. And you can choose not to see the dark. Not that you're going to suppress things, but when you just live in the moment, it makes such a huge difference. And you just, I think you exemplified that with how you
mm,
handled. And the silver lining was that you changed your career and you're helping the world.
yes,
So,
yes,
good came out of a very, very sad, horrible thing. But,
yes,
you didn't say, oh, poor me, and become a victim. Instead, you took action and you said, well, what can I do? Which is sort of what we're trying to tell everyone today. What can you do? And you've
yes.
done amazing things that I'm so
Thank
happy you
you.
did them. But anyway, you got through
Yeah.
it, and this.
A- And it's the mindset piece, right? The mindset does shift our genes. Like when we think about what we can do, our shift in mindset, and I know it's not like that, right? I know it doesn't come easily, but where we're going to go now is going to help us think about that. And I want to position a different mental model for us for a second before I talk about this next one, because you'll understand what I mean when I talk about circle of influence. So I've mentioned that a few times. And this is a model that was created by Stephen Covey, who wrote the Habits of the Most Successful People. And really, we do need to think through mental models to help us get out of these tough situations. Again, it takes the linear into the three-dimensional. So he developed a system that was called the circle of influence. And you can draw this out for yourself or think about it in your mind's eye. In the center, there's a circle that is the circle of control. It's a very small circle. Outside of the circle of control is another circle around that, and in that is our circle of influence. And outside of that is another circle, and that represents our circle of concern. So right now we have a little control and a lot of concern. And I think that's where we all are experiencing things right now. What we can sit in to bring us back to that silver lining mindset is our circle of influence. So our circle of influence, when we sit there, expands and actually impacts our circle of concern. And our circle of influence shrinks when we sit in our circle of concern. Did I say that all right? We want to sit
Perfect.
in our
Yeah.
circle of influence, and that's how we expand it. So when we think about our circle of concern right now, it's for ourselves, our family, our businesses, our community, the world population. There's a lot of concern, a lot of downstream impacts of the coronavirus and the disease COVID-19. There's a lot. And we could sit there in that concern and in that dark place. But the place where we really make a difference is by paying heed to what we're being asked to do, by making the choices that are going to support us to the best of our abilities. And we're going to talk about that in relation to the immune system. But that's where we change not just things for ourselves, but things for everybody and everything that we touch. I was talking to my boyfriend this morning, and he lives a little bit farther away, and his ex-wife works in a hospital, and there's 4 kids home. One is in China and safe, but sorry, 3 kids home, one in China and safe. But like, I have to think about who are those kids and that ex-wife coming into contact with, and what does that mean for he and I seeing each other and saying, that's your circle and you need to make decisions about who you interact with. I can only handle it in my household, but that means we can't be in touch. Not because I'm necessarily worried about my health, but because I have an influence in the entire expression of this situation by paying heed to the distancing that we can bring in and by taking care of myself and my family. That's it. So circle of influence, they have to make their decisions, but that's going to influence my decision because I can't risk just not exposure to myself, but exposure to anybody else who I'm in contact with, even at the grocery store. So I hope that wasn't too much, but that circle of influence really allows us to make decisions for ourselves and all the things we're concerned about, all of them. The faster we contain this, the least downstream impact there is, like on the economy and on jobs and all of those things that I know people are saying, yes, say that to people who are losing their jobs, to think about the silver lining. Well, right now we have to come back and remember we're resilient and sit where we do have an influence. Okay, so circle of influence for that those genes that we talked about. We talked about food, movement, environment, mindset. That's your circle of influence. Circle of influence for your digestion is the mechanical, chewing, chemical, smelling. The structural, we talked about the aloe for the mucosa right now, and the microbial, and that is where we eat some of our probiotic rich foods. Circle of influence for inflammation. That's our third root. Now, inflammation is a natural response of the body's immune system. We want inflammation, but we want it to be self-limiting. So we want our body to do what it's supposed to do to fight an infection, whether that's viral or bacterial or pathogenic or anything. We want inflammation to do its job, and then we want it to be able to relax. And what's happening with the severe cases of COVID-19, which are fewer and showing to be fewer as we know how many cases are growing, that's where the immune system isn't self-regulating. It's not turning off, and that's where it becomes more severe. What we can do now when we are the well or even the mildly sick is ensure that we are allowing for that immune system to do what it's supposed to do, fight and retract. And you may hear my kid in the background now because he is home from college making himself breakfast. I didn't give him a warning. So the things we do in our circle of influence for inflammation are to clear, and this goes back to your question, Margie, calm, enhance, and modulate. So that's our circle of influence, and we're going to talk into what that means, and I'm going to share a handout with you where I've identified what we can do in each of those areas. So again, clear, and that comes back to the foods, calm, enhance, and modulate. So should we get to those foods that we can talk about?
Everybody is just waiting. What are these foods, Andrea? No, it's important because I don't think people are, I so agree with you that everyone's just worried about taking supplements and not realizing that the most important thing, this is critical of what we're eating and what we're not eating and what we're feeding ourselves. It's not just that we're popping a zillion supplements that's going to help us.
Yeah, I mean, we can take high doses of vitamin C and be eating cupcakes, and they're counteracting each other. So we're spending a lot of money on vitamin C that's having to work harder because we just suppressed the immune response with the sugar. So clearly, if we're clearing, one of the things we want to think about is refined sugar. So doesn't mean you can't eat fruits and you can't eat more lower glycemic sweeteners like coconut sugar, even raw honey, but not eating a lot of refined sugar right now. And I heard somebody, Margie, one of our students yesterday in a session, refer to this as the COVID-15 because people are putting on so much weight like they do.
Like the freshman, what was it, the freshman 10, I think, and now it's the freshman
Exactly.
COVID 15. I did gain a pounds already because I'm not doing my normal exercise, which is a
I
challenge
know, it's
to
so
me
hard.
to totally revise a whole new exercise program.
I know, I've been like at it. Like my son was laughing at me yesterday because I was like jumping around to a video in my yoga room. So yeah, trying to find ways to move, but certainly removing refined sugar, reducing it, and then looking also at alcohol. Those are two top ones right now, not to indulge in if you're trying to support your immune response. Of course, we can go deeper into the most inflammatory foods. Gluten and dairy are very inflammatory, depending on where you are in your journey. This may not be the time to embark on a cleanse, but just reducing the things that are known to be most inflammatory. Those processed foods, it worries me that the middle aisles of the stores are what are empty right now, because that means people are eating more processed foods when that's something that suppresses our immune function. And then if you are somebody who knows more about your body and how your body functions, eliminating the things that are more inflammatory to you. And oftentimes we know those things. So if you check in with yourself and say like, oh, I don't feel that good when I eat eggs, garlic, whatever it is for you, almonds, this is a good time to say like, I'm not going to eat that right now. We may be in for a longer journey here, so it's a good time to take care. And that's how we help that area of concern. There's less of us that are going to get sick if we sit in this area of clearing. We also want to clear, our bodies, make sure we're peeing and pooping. We want to clear contaminants from our environment. The virus has a lipid bilayer that washes away with soap. So clear contaminants from your hands, from surfaces where it's known to live for a longer time. So any of these flatter surfaces, just clear the contaminants, but also, like we've been talking about, clear stress and anxiety. Figure out what's triggering you, what news sources do you want to tune into, what's most supportive for you right now. Get that exercise, call a loved one. This is what we do to start with the circle of influence arena that we're calling clear.
That's so, so important. And wait, there was something I was thinking that I wanted to mention when you were saying, oh, sugar. I just wanted to say, so I'm an ex-sugar addict. And this is a good time for people because we are home more. And that to really experiment with foods and really see when it's a big thing, this coronavirus and the COVID-19. So when you know that sugar can reduce your immune system, it just gives you more of an incentive, and more of an incentive when you're eating something healthy like the broccoli, when you can even label it as nutrition and good food enhancement and you're improving, versus when you eat the sugar, to really know that that's indulgence and that's something that's going to reduce your immune system. And I think this is a good time if for people to really, because once you do that, I was really a sugar addict. I mean, I would sneak chocolate chips and eat the whole bag and then replace it and not tell anybody. And then 3 p.m, I was ready to pass out. And so
Yeah.
once you stop the sugar, oh my gosh, right, Andrea? It's
Yeah.
amazing how good you can feel. And I see this, and I know you do with clients as well. It's unbelievable the difference. So
Yes.
I'm just such a big fan of reducing sugar. And I don't have any refined sugar. Not that you don't have delicious things. And there's amazing recipes with honey and with fruit. There's amazing things you can do, but by eliminating that processed sugar, it's really incredible. So yes, all that is
Yeah.
so good what you said.
Yeah, so clearing. This is a time to clear. And again, we can clear out the most inflammatory foods and we give our immune system the room to do what it's supposed to do. Otherwise, we're distracting it with other stuff. And that makes us less resistant to the virus and to any infection. That next area in our circle of influence is to calm. And when we calm, we are also looking at what we can do to bring down the inflammatory response as it happens. Make sure that it's happening as we want it to. In addition to clearing out the foods, there are things we can add like kitchen spices. So oregano, garlic, ginger, turmeric, favorites to help calm the inflammatory response. Eating all those colors, those phytonutrients we talked about with the agriculture, really thinking about a wide variety of colors and making sure that we're hydrating to be able to nourish that mucosa that we were talking about that's most susceptible to the infection. We also want to calm our system. So breathing, recognizing what we're feeling, sleep is really important. You know, again, that's easier said than done. And finding ways to do what you're doing, Margie, which is spending time with family, connecting. That helps our nervous system through all this. Even though my mom is 81, I kept saying she was 82 and she got very upset with me. But she's in California. She's, you know, not leaving the house. My sister's not too far away, but they're not visiting each other. She's just putting herself, she's not going to her workout classes like you, Margie. She's used to going to lots of workout classes. She does it a lot to keep herself active, especially after my dad passed away 4 years ago. And she's feeling a little bit of that loneliness, but she's talking to all her cousins on the East Coast. She's making sure to FaceTime with friends. I'm calling her every day. I'm sending her, we had a funny situation where I sent her a little funny video from Instagram, and she's on Instagram, but she didn't know how to check when somebody sends a private message. So we were all hysterical on the phone, on you know, on speakerphone, trying to get her to do it, just connecting, making sure that she feels connected. That's going to calm her nervous system. And then we calm our lifestyle patterns. We eat and chew, like we were saying. We sip hot liquids. We walk slowly outside if we can. We take notice. I mean, I went outside yesterday, everything's blooming around me. There were so many flowers. And we take those breaks from the news that we need to. So clearing and calming, this is part of our circle of influence. And look, I didn't even yet.
That's so interesting with the blooming, because I try to always look for the good, especially in these times when there's, you know, to try to just see as much good as you can. And it was so exciting. I was taking a walk, and everybody's walking. That's the one thing when it's a nice day.
It's true.
You know, when you're living in the suburbs where I live, everybody, there's parks and things, people are walking, which is just amazing. And so, and you're not really close to anybody. But all of a sudden I saw the buds on the trees, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, that was just such a beautiful thing, and I so appreciated it, and it just meant renewal. And I thought, wow, it just really hit me, and it was such a nice thing to witness in the midst of everything.
Yeah,
I think that's what we need to do.
I know.
Appreciate these little things, because it really helps
Totally.
focus us on those. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I work as part of a virtual company, a virtual team, and we have ways that we communicate. We're lucky right now that we already know how to do this, and we already have the systems in place. But one of the people that works on my team was saying that it's a good time to recognize everything that's changing in the world, because we are using the earth less. So the waters in Venice are clear to the bottom. That's never been the case because there have been so many visitors there. And what's happening in Italy is tragic. And yet the earth is going through a healing process as well. And so recognizing and hearing the birds and seeing the flowers, smelling the flowers, I have lilacs around me, really takes that time to calm the entire nervous system.
Oh, I love this. We could talk so long because you have
I
so
know.
much amazing, amazing information. Is there anything else that you want to, I mean, we've gone over so many things, but is there any last minute things you really want to let people know? You're going to give this great handout. So we're going to have
I'm going to
the link
give
to
the
that.
handout. Yeah, so I'm going to say sit in your circle of influence, starting with clearing and calming. When you get the handout, you'll understand more about enhancing and how you can enhance with the supplements if you're taking them, but you don't need to run out and get all of them, but there are a few in there that remind you which ones are immune supportive. And modulation of the immune system is always the thing that gets confusing for people, but also elicits fear, like we were talking about before we started recording, Margie. And I think what's most important in modulation is knowing your own body, knowing you have somebody to reach out to that's on your side, and not worrying too much. If you are the worried well, just support your immune system. If you're having a symptom or two that you're not sure, is it a cold? Is it the virus? Is it? If it goes away in 2 days, they're saying, and it's only a couple of symptoms, don't worry about it. Our bodies should have the ability to handle the virus. And we're seeing now, as of today, 90% of people do have the ability to handle the virus. That extra 10% isn't dying. That extra 10% is needing help and support. And we need to stay out of the areas where they can get their support. And the way we do that is with everything we talked about today. So we are here for us and to support our own systems. We're here to make sure we can influence that area of concern. But I also have a real need to support people like your husband, Margie, who has to do his work in the hospital. And this is a time more than ever before that we need to fill the gaps in healthcare. We need to fill them for ourselves. And we need to go to practitioners like you, Margie, who also fill the gap so that we're not overwhelming the systems and the medical providers that are going to be already overwhelmed. This is our circle of influence, and I feel really strongly about that right now.
Yeah, that's so beautifully said. My husband, for those who don't know, he actually did a podcast because he had an autoimmune situation that, Andrea, you really helped me figure out how to help him. But so he did a podcast on autoimmunity. But anyway, he's an OBGYN. So it's right now really a struggle just figuring out, do they have enough supplies because there are people at his hospital who are pregnant who have the virus. And so just figuring out the systems to keep everybody in place and who has the masks that are fitted. It's challenging, but everybody's working together and everybody is supporting each other. And I think that's what we need to do. And what I love is that you gave so many things that we can do. And I think when we focus on what we can do and we focus instead of what we can't do, and it makes such a huge difference. And we focus on solutions, not the problems, because that's where we're going to make a big difference and stay well and get through this. And we will get through this. I strongly believe we will get through this, and we'll look back. And I mean, it's tough. There's no question about it. There's just so many sad things. But I think everything that you talked about today is incredible and really gives us so much information to so much information that we can do things with. So I can't thank you enough. It's just been such a pleasure. And for people to get in touch with you, Andrea, I'll have your website. And what's the best?
Just head over to www.fxnutrition.com.
Okay, great. And you have so many, when you go there, you'll see there's so many programs. And for anyone that's a practitioner and really wants to delve in and really take your knowledge and how you can help people to another level, I can't say enough wonderful things because you've been such a mentor to me and you've helped me so much help other people. So you're one of my favorites, and that's why I wanted you on here. So thank you so much. And
thank you. I'm so honored and so amazing to see all you're doing, Margie. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks so much for being on, and let's keep in touch. Bye-bye.
Yes.
I hope you've enjoyed today's interview as much as I have, and now have some concrete action steps that you can put into your life that can make a big difference in your health and well-being. And there's a great handout that Andrea had mentioned in the talk that's in the show notes, as well as the link to Andrea's website. So everybody, stay well. I'll keep giving you tips and information because I think it's all important that we stay together, stay as positive as we can, and do what we can do. Because the good news is there's a lot we can do to help ourselves. And let's focus on what's going right and focus on solutions. And I think that's going to help all of us. So I'm praying for all of us, and together we will move beyond this. Bye for now, everybody, and look forward to seeing you next time. Thank
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Happy Bones, Happy Life podcast. If you enjoyed this show, please subscribe on your favorite listening app so that you don't miss any amazing insights on upcoming episodes. And until next time, continue to live your best life ever. See you soon.